Welcome, welcome, my fabulous fempreneurs. I have an exciting and also very informative interview for you today. I am here with Ann Marriott, and she is going to get us in line with the concept of being aligned with our money and our unlimited potential. Welcome, welcome, Ann.
Oh, thank you so much. It's my privilege and honor to be here and to talk about a subject that's near and dear to my heart.
Yes, please tell us how you got started in the coaching and money alignment industry.
I think alignment is really the key word, and because if I look back at my, the history of what I did, it all just kind of came into alignment, and I just happened to get into the counseling coaching industry. And when I look back at the jobs, the ones that I love the most, that's what I was doing, and it became a common thread in everything I did. So really, I'd love to say, I had a desire to do this, and that's what I made happen. But I think that the desire was there for me to do this, and I was led in that direction,
Ah,
because it's really very synchronistic how I even ended up in the profession that I'm in, and then the business that I have on the side.
okay, so you just open yourself up to it, and there it was.
Yeah.
And so, specifically, how do you help people? Well, let's talk about some of the problems they have. Let's outline
Mhm.
some of the problems that people have with being out of alignment with money. Because awareness is the first step. And
Yes.
unfortunately, many of us, we struggle and we don't have the awareness that this disconnection with money is a problem.
Mm. Yeah, I think the biggest one is that we see money as outside of us. And, if we kind of just come back to looking at everything is energy, and money is just energy. And we have a relationship with it. And I think this is where we get lost, is we see it as this external thing, and then that external thing gets layered with a lot of misconceptions, beliefs, stories, pain, and we view it differently. But really, if you just think about money as something you have a relationship with, and then you look at your relationship with money, and for an example, if we look at a traditional relationship, it starts out with the excitement phase. It's lots of energy and excitement. And I want you to think about when you got your first job and you had your first income, and then you kind of settle in, and the relationship gets a little more stable and maybe not as exciting, but good. So think about your money when all of a sudden you had bills and you had to pay rent and the phone and the stuff, and you had to readjust. And then if that relationship goes maybe down the wrong path, you think about now that it does things that annoy you, and the expectations are maybe not reasonable. And now there's some discourse between your love relationship. Same thing happens with money. All of a sudden, maybe there isn't quite enough coming in to go out, or you don't like where it's going, or you're not paying attention to it. You are now creating a discourse between you and your relationship with money. And I think to me, that's the biggest shift that has the biggest impact.
That is interesting concept because I've heard that before, treating it like a relationship, treating it like a person that you're in a relationship
Mm,
with. And so one of the things that puts us out of alignment, as you explained, is not seeing it as a relationship and seeing it as separate from ourselves, that thing that has to come in, and then you have to do the necessary things with it, the bills and taxes and just
mhm.
so much stress around it, rather than creating this relationship of, okay, I trust you, I respect you, it's okay. I even love you. Come in,
Yeah.
go out, but it's a healthy relationship. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So, first of all, I'm getting truth vibes as you're talking. So, there's a lot of energy coming up around this concept, which I think is just reiterating how important this is for all of us to kind of shift our thinking around money. And so I talk a lot about when I do a Let Money In workshop, and I talk about loving your money. And so, for example, and I'm sure people can relate to this, how many of us go to the grocery store and go, oh, this food is also expensive. I'm spending too much money on this, or we pay our power bill and we don't like that, or we pay our taxes and we're resentful of that. Yes. Okay.
Been there.
So one of the small shifts that you can do is start to think outside of that and have gratitude. So you can be grateful that, your money is now feeding you. You can be grateful that it's providing the services that you receive, by paying your taxes. You could also bless the money when you pay it. So let's say you're at a grocery store and you pay your groceries. You can think of that money going to support it could be the owner of the grocery store. Sometimes that may be a stretch depending on the company. But how about the employees that are getting paid? And how about that they're feeding their family? And so you can create this bigger vision of how this money is flowing. And I'd also like to just point out that the word for money is currency. And there's a reason for that. It's a current, it flows, it comes and it goes. And we need to be open to that currency to allow that to continue to happen.
Phenomenal. And I was waiting for you to bring that up because that was the word that I was thinking, the flow of money. And yes, I've done some money blocks. I've done some workshops around that. And one of the things, it always comes back to getting into the flow. And you pointed out a great thing here because I always thought about, okay, I got to put money out so that money can come in. But it's more to it than that. It's seeing how it feeds other families, it feeds the employees
Mhm.
of that supermarket, things that we don't even like to think about, like our taxes. It's
Mhm.
going somewhere and it can come back to you, will come back to you, but it will take care of other people along the way of
Yeah.
that journey. So not holding on so tight to it.
Yes. Yeah, and I think what you said is so important because when you hold on to something, the message you're sending out to yourself, to the world, is there's not enough. I'm holding on to this. I'm not going to get more. And again, it's all energy, it's all intention, it's all thought. And so if that's your belief, then you're going to create that. And so you're going to hold on, you're not going to get more, you're going to perpetuate that belief, you're going to hold on. So you're just going to be in that cycle. It doesn't mean you have to give everything away, but it just means that you need to be open to allowing that flow to happen and letting go of the fear around not letting it happen.
Interesting. So what you talk about, that holding on to it and blocking off the flow, is like scarcity.
Yes.
And I want people to be aware that sometimes they're actually, as you said, they're creating that energy that they want to be in scarcity. Because I said it earlier and I felt it a little bit, in me when I said, love the money, have a relationship with the
Mhm.
money, love the money. And so many times we're being told, no, that's bad, don't love the money, because we've seen some examples of people using it badly or extremes. But in a loving relationship, there is no abuse.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
freedom.
Yeah. One of the questions I'll often ask in a presentation or workshop is money is dot, 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 finish the sentence.
Mm.
And then people will finish it. And, some of the common ones that, well, I'll ask you, money is, what would be your first initial response to that?
Necessary.
Okay, perfect. So necessary, the root of all evil comes up because again, we go way back into historic times,
That's right.
power, greed, um, most of the responses are around that. So I think it's a really interesting way and I get people to answer it very quickly. And it's a really interesting way to pull out what's in our subconscious about money and then
Mm.
put it in front of us so that we can look at it. And these are just all beliefs that we have based on what we've been taught about money, what we've been shown about money, what we've been told about money. But it's not actually really true. So if you go way back, what is money? If you build my kitchen cabinets, I'll give you a goat. I mean, it was just an even exchange based on what a person had. We've just translated it to this paper coin thing. But if you look beneath that and you still look at it as this transfer of what we have to give to another, of what they have to give to us, the money's just a vehicle to do that.
Interesting. So we can start also looking at it as more of a service. I'm providing a service and you're giving back to me, and we exchange in that way without the focus
Yeah,
of the actual dollars, but the exchange.
yeah,
Okay, okay,
yeah, exactly.
I like that. And I really understand what you mean about the programming that we get in our childhood, whether it's spoken or unspoken.
Mm.
I remember someone telling a story about a young girl who went to um, brunch with her mom, and her mom had like $5, and she said to the child, "This is all the money we have, so be careful with it." And the child was traumatized around, she grew up
Mm.
later and found out that she was traumatized around food and spending money on food because she felt this is all we have. She heard as a child,
Yeah,
mom had more money than that, but she heard this is all we have. And those, we have, all of us have those moments where someone said something dramatic to us related to money, and it stuck with us, and we started operating out of that fear almost.
absolutely, absolutely. And in doing this work and helping others, reflected on my life growing up, and my story is I always I have just enough. So then
Mm,
I never had more than enough, but I had just enough. And that's because my family, my dad was an entrepreneur, my mom stayed at home, there are 8 children, and we always made do. And we always had people at the house, and they would invite them to dinner. And so I didn't have that scarcity mentality too much. Although I had to fight for a pair of jeans. Finally, in grade 7, I was out of polyester pants and into jeans. So just little things like that we didn't have the money for, and I could see how that had played out in my life for years until I noticed it. And I think you said a really key phrase at the beginning. It starts with awareness, and to me, that's the beauty of this discussion is helping you to look at it a little differently. Once you see it, you can't unsee it, and then as you see it, you start to shift, which is my hope for everyone, is that it starts to shift. It gives them a paradigm shift, and then that just will start to grow and flourish and expand their relationship with money and everything, but we're talking about money.
yes, yes. And I realized that even you have those dramatic moments that are, you know, affecting you from childhood, impressionable years, but also we have conflicting information coming back. So on one hand, people want you to give to
Mm,
charity or religious organizations, and yet they're saying don't have too much, don't have too much.
mhm.
So you go back and forth between the scarcity and just enough instead of abundance. It's
Yes.
just enough not to be judged too harshly.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. That causes me to reflect on the people in the world with lots of money and looking at the differences in terms of what they do and how they share that wealth. And again, I think there's this, built-in belief that, again, money is power, and then you don't need so much. But then you have people who do bring a lot of wealth into their life and they share it. And I mean, Oprah's the first person who pops into my mind. If you look at her story and where she came from,
Mhm.
and she struggled with that. She talks about it, and but how she takes that and she brings that into her life in the world. And so it kind of breaks that misconception around the standard. If you have too much, you're greedy, and you hold on to it, and there's not enough for everyone else.
Yes, and that is one of my missions here, is
Mm.
to awaken especially women to the financial freedom, but more than that, the mindset freedom. Because one of my coaches in the past, my business coaches, she's quite accomplished and famous, and she has one of the biggest organizations worldwide, but she struggles with guilt,
Mm,
so much guilt. And I'm sitting and saying, hey, if I had all of that and I achieved all of that, why would I be guilty about it? But if you don't change your mindset, you're going to take that with you.
absolutely.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, I think people, that's another misconception is you think that, the person who's teaching or guiding or coaching has it all figured out.
Mm,
And we don't, and I was just, the retreat that I was just on, my coach and mentor was there and she was talking about having a therapist. And someone came up to me and said, I find it odd that she has a therapist because she's, in this role of mentor and coach. And I'm like, yeah, she's real, first of all. So, appreciate that about her, because nobody has it all figured out. We all have things we struggle with. What makes us successful is seeing them, working to overcome them, and always showing up the best version of ourselves in every moment to the best of our ability.
beautiful, beautiful. Oh, yes. And so I want to just invite the women that are listening
Mhm.
to release something. Yeah, let's take a breath into
I'm
that.
amplifying that. Can I just say a few words as we do that?
Yes.
Um, Release the pain in your heart, release the stories you've been holding on to, and release that part of yourself that has been taught that you're not worthy to have everything that you desire. In the simple act of what we're doing right now, just taking some breaths with the intention of letting that go, is really all that is needed to accomplish that or to start that process. Mm,
Beautiful. I'm glad we did that because it's nice to take on information and go to. I've been to this conference, I've had this coaching, and I wrote it all down. Sometimes just a moment to pause. I used to
yeah.
coach public speaking, and pauses is the time that we absorb the energy, we absorb the moment and the strength. And I feel that as women entrepreneurs, we have so much strength in us,
Mm,
and it gets blocked because of the pressures to do and be everything for everyone. And you talked about that previously in your
mm,
coaching business. You try to get women away from being everything for everyone
yeah,
and see their own value.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. My program is called Shine, um, and it's all about helping you see that part of you inside that gets lost along the way because we spend most of our lives taking care of everyone and everything else, igniting it, and then shining it so brightly that you can't help but see how amazing you are and others as well. And I just want to add when I say that, the fear will come up around that because we're fearful to show up in the fullest expression of who we are. We're fearful to shine brightly. We're fearful to have riches and wealth because we're shining too brightly. Like it's all
Mhm.
connected, because we've been told, to not to be an ego, not to be selfish, but that showing up in the fullest expression of who you are and bringing that to your world and just the world in general is the greatest gift that you can give anyone, including yourself.
Yes, and I want to bring that back to loving. We
Yeah.
talked about loving money, and money is energy, and loving yourself and your worth, and applauding yourself and
Mm,
feeling that abundance.
yeah.
When I first started in coaching, And we started having conversations, not just about money, but just about energy, because I like to focus a lot on energy in my visibility coaching.
Mm,
Just letting women to come and show up as you are, because when you do that, you shine. In
absolutely.
fact, my next masterclass is a lady shine,
Beautiful.
and and it's all about having that energy that I'm here, I'm myself, I have full permission from myself to be
Mm,
here and shine.
yes.
Yeah. And so when we talk about abundance, I think this conversation has helped me to really understand more of what that means.
Mm, beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. I can, and it's something that I can't even put into words.
No, and I get what I call truth vibes. So when we're hitting the truth, talking about truth in that truthful moment, the energy starts to run up my legs. Like it hasn't stopped since we started
Mm,
because this is such a topic that needs to be expressed, heard, and received.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think we'll close on that. Living in abundance. Make
Beautiful.
that your motivation, your journey, your process, and find out what it means to you.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Well,
Breathe in abundance,
mm, like air.
which is abundant.
Yes, yes, yes. So thank you so much for joining
Well,
me today,
my
Mary.
pleasure.
Thank you so much. Um, that's it.
Beautiful. I adore your energy.